Jayoshmayatana. Then, illumined by the light of knowledge of the enlightening liberation unsurpassed banner, directly witnessing the inconceivable miracles of the realm of Buddhas, endowed with mystic knowledge directly aware of the inconceivable liberation of enlightening beings, his mind illumined by the inconceivable knowledge of concentration of enlightening beings, imbued with the light of knowledge of concentration comprehending all times at once, illumined by the realm of concentration comprehending that all is in perception, having attained the light of the highest knowledge in all worlds, approaching the state whose scope reaches everywhere in past, present, and future, intent on the knowledge showing non-dual equality in differentiation, with the light of knowledge extending to all objects, with skillfulness rich in zeal for the purification of tolerance in the face of people's beliefs, having attained the light of certain knowledge of acceptance of things in terms of their inherent nature, his mind constantly involved in enlightening beings' practice of mystic knowledge reaching everywhere, which is meditation on inherent nature, his mind progressing rapidly and irreversibly toward omniscience, illumined by the lightning of knowledge of the 10 powers, his mind tirelessly seeking the sound of the reality realm, determined to enter the realm of omniscience, intent on accomplishing the infinite array of practices of enlightening beings and purifying the infinite sphere of great vows of enlightening beings, his mind directed toward endlessly ongoing knowledge of the infinite network of all worlds, his mind not shrinking from guiding infinite beings to complete development, beholding the infinite sphere of practice of enlightening beings, seeing the variety of conditions in infinite worlds, seeing the variety of differentiations of infinite worlds, seeing infinite worlds within microcosms and macrocosms, seeing the variety of the webs of perceptions and conceptions on which infinite worlds are based, seeing the variety of conventional terminology in infinite worlds, seeing the variety of interests of infinite beings, seeing the variety of differentiations of infinite beings, seeing the following of developmental teachings of infinite beings, seeing the variety and perceptions of place and time of infinite beings. Sudna, his attention on spiritual benefactors, gradually made his way to the priest Jayoshmayatana in the land of Ishana. At that time, the priest was practicing an ascetic exercise of enduring fierce heat with his mind on omniscience. On 4 sides were huge bonfires like mountains ablaze. Rising above appeared a great mountain precipice, a razor-edge path. Sudna went up, paid his respects to the priest, and said, "Noble one, I have set my mind on supreme perfect enlightenment, but I do not know how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings. I hear you give enlightening beings instruction. Please tell me how to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings." The priest said, "Climb this razor-edge path mountain and jump from there into the fire. Thus will your enlightening practice be purified." At that point, Sudna thought, "It is hard to avoid the situations that are inopportune for enlightenment. It is hard to get to be human. It is hard to remove error and doubt about the right opportunity. It is hard to find a Buddha in the world. It is hard to have all one's faculties in order. It is hard to get to hear the truth. It is hard to meet people of truth. It is hard to find genuine spiritual benefactors. It is hard to get genuine guidance and instruction. It is hard to live right in the human world. It is hard to carry out truth in all respects. Might this not be a demon, or someone possessed by a demon, or a cohort of the devil, or an imitation spiritual teacher, or a false enlightening being who has undertaken to impede my roots of goodness, who is out to destroy my life? Does he not want to prevent me from reaching omniscience? Does he not want to lead me on a wrong path? Does he not want to prevent me from attaining Buddhahood? While he was involved in these thoughts, 10,000 Brahma gods appeared in the sky and said to him, "Do not get fixed on such thoughts. This sage has attained the light of the concentration of adamantine flame. He has unrelenting energy and has begun the great undertaking of salvation. He has set out to end the emotional attachments of all sentient beings. He is striving to dissolve the webs of all views. He is determined to burn up the deadwood of all afflictions and their actions. He is working to shed light in the wilderness of all kinds of knowledge that is not conducive to enlightenment. He is resolved upon eliminating all beings' fears of old age and death. He is intent on dispersing the darkness of past, present, and future. He has undertaken to shine beams of light of all truths. As he mortifies himself with 4 fires under the blazing sun, even the Brahma gods who think themselves creators and lords and supreme beings and are engrossed in various views, do not take pleasure in their own states because of the light given off by this priest's peerless practice of heat austerity. Not enjoying the pleasure of meditation, they come to the priest, and he overwhelms them by mystic power, and through fierce austerity teaches them to get rid of all their views and destroy all pride and ignorance. He also teaches them so that they may suffuse all worlds with great love and compassion, make their will for enlightenment firm, enlarge their determination for enlightenment, turn to the vision of all Buddhas, fully receive the voice of the Buddhas, and hear the voice of Buddhas everywhere without resistance or obstruction. 10,000 demons also stood in the sky, showered celestial jewels, and said, "The light emitted from the flames used by this priest in his heat mortification obscures our abodes, our ornaments, and our paraphernalia. Terrified, we and our cohorts go to the priest, who teaches in such a way that, coming to ourselves and getting back our right minds, we aspire to enlightenment and become irreversible on the way to supreme perfect enlightenment." Also, 10,000 controlling gods, scattering celestial flowers, said, "While he is mortifying himself with 4 fires under the fiery sun, we find no pleasure in our own abodes. We and our cohorts go to him, and he teaches us so that we attain control of our own minds, control of afflictions, ability to be born in any state we wish, power to clear away obstructions caused by action, mastery of all concentrations, control of paraphernalia to purify our arrangements, and control conforming to our wishes." 10,000 gods of pleasant emanations also stood in the sky, presented sweet sounds of celestial music and song, and said, "The fire of the priest is producing such light that our palaces are glowing, being purified and becoming more radiant, and so are the decorations and nymphs here. We and our cohorts of godlings and nymphs no longer find pleasure in desires, and we do not enjoy sensual pleasures. Our minds and bodies cooled, we go to the priest, who teaches us so that our minds will be purified, so that our minds will be radiant, so our minds will be good, so our minds will be malleable, so we will become joyful, so we may purify the realization of the knowledge of the 10 powers, so we may grow in enthusiasm for the great teaching, so we may purify our bodies and produce measureless Buddha bodies, so we may purify our voices and attain the voice of Buddha, so we may purify our minds and attain omniscience." 10,000 gods of the heaven of satisfaction, along with their companies of celestial boys and girls, also stood in the sky, showered all kinds of fragrant powders, paying honor and respect, and said, "While he mortifies himself with fire, there is no pleasure in our abodes. Being freed from attachment, we go to the priest and he teaches us so that we will be indifferent to all objects of sense, so that we will be perfectly and completely satisfied in mind, so that we will produce roots of goodness, so that we will aspire to enlightenment, and so that we will eventually fulfill all qualities of Buddhas. 10,000 gods of the heaven of timely portion, along with their celestial sons and daughters, showered a rain of flowers and said, "While this priest is mortifying himself with fire, we have no pleasure in our celestial song. Freed from attachment, we go to the priest, and he teaches us so that we will become detached from all sensuality and eventually attain all qualities of Buddhahood." 100,000 celestial beings of the 33-fold heavens, each with 32 siblings, along with their celestial sons and daughters, showered rain from clouds of celestial cloths, jewels, ornaments, and flowers, then said, "While this priest is mortifying himself with fire, we have no pleasure in our palaces, parks, and groves, or in such enjoyments as music, dance, and song. Freed from attachment, we go to the priest, and he teaches us to remove all sensuality. He tells us this is all impermanent, unstable, bound to perish. He teaches us to thoroughly cut off all arrogance and heedlessness, to increase our desire for supreme enlightenment. Furthermore, at the sight of this priest, these peaks of the polar mountain quake. Terrified, we commit ourselves to reach omniscience, that we may be firm in our aspiration for omniscience." Also, 10,000 rain spirits in the sky showered rain from clouds of celestial sandalwood, along with sweet sounds of the songs of nymphs, producing clouds of celestial fragrance, and said, "The light emitted from this priest's fires, illumining the abodes of all the water spirits, removes fears of the hot rain of sand. It also extinguishes anger, and the water spirits become cool and clear in mind. Then, once our minds are clear, the priest teaches us to reject our low state as dragons and to stop all obstructive actions. Having taught us to overcome evil, he inspires us to supreme perfect enlightenment and leads us to omniscience." Also, 10,000 spirit chiefs standing in the sky honored the priest Jayoshmayatana and the youth Sudana with various offerings, then said, "Son, as this priest mortifies himself with fire, goodwill toward human beings is born in our minds, and all spirits, goblins, and demons also become benevolent. Benevolent, now harmless, they come to us. Overcome by the dominant power of goodwill, we find no pleasure in our various estates. We all go with our respective companions to the priest. He radiates light from his body, which shines on us and fills our bodies with bliss. Our bodies and minds blissful, he teaches us in such a way that many spirits, goblins, demons, and ghosts are inspired to seek enlightenment." 10,000 chief celestial musicians also stood in the sky and said, "While we are in our abodes too, our abodes are illumined by the light of the priest's fires. Touched by that light, we are filled with inconceivable bliss, and we go to the priest, who then teaches us in such a way that we become irreversible in progress towards supreme perfect enlightenment." 10,000 Titan kings rose from the ocean, knelt on their right knees, joined their palms in salutation, and said, "As this priest mortifies himself by fire, all our Titan worlds, including the oceans, mountains, and land spheres, quake. We are all thereby divested of arrogance, heedlessness, and conceit. Overwhelmed by the heat of his religious practice, we go to him, and he teaches us so that we may do away with all deceitfulness and guile, enter into acceptance of the profound truth, abide in the state of imperturbability, and perfect the knowledge of the 10 powers. Also 10,000 bird kings, assuming splendid human forms, said, "Son, the light from the flames of the priest's fires, shining on our abodes, causes them to quake. Frightened and agitated, we go to him, and by teaching us he exhorts us to great benevolence and compassion. He urges us to plunge into the ocean of mundane life to serve sentient beings sunk in the mud of desire. He urges us to purify our will for enlightenment. He exhorts us to keenness of wisdom and skill in means, and gets us to work at guiding sentient beings according to their maturity. 10,000 centaur kings also stood in the sky and said, "As this priest mortifies himself by fire, the voice of Buddha comes forth from the rows of palms, the trees hung with nets of bells, strings of jewels, garlands, and musical instruments, and the houses and furniture with all kinds of musical instruments and jewelry in our abodes as they are blown by the wind. The voice of the teaching, the voice of the host of non-regressing enlightening beings, and the voice of the vows on which enlightening beings act also emerge, saying that in such and such a world the enlightening being so-and-so is vowing to attain enlightenment. In such and such a world, the enlightening being so-and-so is giving up that which is difficult to give up. In such and such a world, the enlightening being so-and-so is purifying the sphere of universally aware knowledge. In such and such a world, the enlightening being so-and-so is going to the summit of enlightenment. In such and such a world, the enlightening being so-and-so has conquered the demon hordes and is becoming supremely and perfectly enlightened. In such and such a world, the Buddha so-and-so is turning the wheel of the teaching. In such and such a world, the Buddha so-and-so has finished all the tasks of Buddhas and is passing away into absolute nirvana. There may be an end to the particles of every tree and plant, limb and leaf on this continent, but there is no end to those names of the Buddhas and the vows of enlightening beings, the lofty points of departure of the conduct of enlightening beings, which are heard to sound from the rows of palms and all the musical instruments, jewelry, houses, and furniture in our abodes as they are blown by the wind, producing the voices of Buddha, the teaching, and enlightenment. Ecstatically joyful at the sound of the names of the Buddhas and the community of enlightening beings, and the vows and practices they proceed upon, we go to the priest, and he teaches us so that we and the many beings around us become irreversible in progress towards supreme perfect enlightenment. Innumerable gods of the realm of desire with magnificent appearances also stood in the sky, presented mental offerings, and said, "As this priest mortifies himself with heat, his bonfires give off such light that it illumines all the hells all the way to the uninterrupted hell, and the pains of all the creatures in hell cease. He also is visible to us by the same light. We above him, our minds clarified, have been born in the heavens of the realm of desire we wished for. Grateful to him, never tired of seeing him, we give up all sensuality and go to him, and he teaches us in such a way that innumerable sentient beings resolve to realize enlightenment." Then Sudana, pleased, enraptured, transported, overjoyed, happy, having heard this teaching, considered the priest Jayoshmayatana to be a true spiritual benefactor, and prostrated himself at the priest's feet and said, "I confess my error, noble one, in not recognizing you as a spiritual benefactor." Thereupon the priest spoke a verse to Sudana. "An enlightening being who follows instructions has no doubts, his mind at one with the teachers. All benefits will be his, and they will be auspicious. Sure of Buddha knowledge too, he awakens at the foot of the enlightenment tree." Then Sudana climbed the path up the cliff of the mountain, a mass of razor edges, and threw himself into the fire. As he was falling, he attained an enlightening concentration called well-established. On contact with the fire, he attained an enlightening concentration called mystic knowledge of the bliss of tranquility. He said, "How wonderful is the pleasant feeling of this fire and this razor-edge mountain." The priest said, "I have attained the enlightening liberation in which one is not overcome. I know this liberation, but how can I know the practice or tell the virtues of the enlightening beings whose resolve is like rays of fiery energy, determined to end all beings' afflictions and views, who are eminent leaders who never turn back, whose hearts are never exhausted or overcome, whose minds are never depressed, whose spirits never cringe or cower, whose resolve is adamant, who are never dejected in carrying out their great undertakings, who never slacken in their efforts, who are like whirlwinds, who work for the benefit of all beings, whose vigor never recedes. Go south to a city called Simhavi-Jormbita, where there lives a girl named Maitrayani, daughter of the Raja Sima-Ketu. Go ask her how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings. Then Sudna paid his respects and left the priest Jayoshmayatana. Maitrayani. Then, with inconceivable respect for spiritual benefactors, the great zeal purified, ready for the great vehicle, seeking enlightened knowledge, absorbed in the way to enlightenment, seeking association with spiritual friends, dwelling in the sphere of the teaching, approaching unhindered knowledge, certain of the supreme truth, intent on ultimate knowledge, realizing that past, present, and future are ultimately one instant, aware of ultimate non-duality like space, sure of the ultimacy of non-duality, dwelling in the ultimate non-differentiation of the reality realm, devoted to discipline whose goal is freedom from obstruction, intent on ultimate harmony in action, dwelling on the ultimate non-difference of those who realize thusness, intent on the knowledge to tear apart the net of conceptions of all sentient beings, free from attachment to any land, his mind not attached to the congregations of the Buddhas or to the purities of the Buddha lands, perceiving all sentient beings as void of self or inherent identity, realizing that all sounds are like echoes, and eminently aware that all forms are like reflections. Sudna gradually made his way to the city Simhavi-Jormbita, looking for the girl Maitrayani. He was told, "The girl Maitrayani, daughter of the Raja Sima-Ketu, with a retinue of 500 girls, is up on the roof of a palace of radiant jewels, sitting on a seat set on sandalwood legs and draped with nets of strings of jewels, and arrayed with celestial cloth, expounding spiritual teaching." Hearing this, Sudna entered the city, went to the house of the Raja, and stood at the outer foyer, desirous of seeing the girl Maitrayani. There he saw hundreds of thousands of people going in. He asked them where they were going and why they had come, and they told him they were going to Maitrayani to hear the teaching. He thought to himself, "No one is prevented from going in," so he went in. Having gone in, he saw the palace of radiant jewels set on a crystal base, with pillars of lapis lazuli and walls of diamond, ornamented with 100,000 projections of gold, furnished with countless jewel mirrors, arrayed with world-illumining jewels, spread with countless jewel nets, graced with inconceivable arrays of beautiful sounds from 100,000 golden bells shaken by the breeze. He also saw the girl Maitrayani, with dark eyes, black hair, and golden skin. Sudna paid his respects to her and said, "Noble one, I have set my mind on supreme perfect enlightenment, but I do not know how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings." She said, "Look at the adornments of my palace." Looking all around in each wall, each pillar, each mirror, each figure, each formation, each jewel, each golden bell, each jewel tree, each girl's body, each jewel necklace, he saw reflected images of the Buddhas in the cosmos, with their first inspirations, spheres of practice and vows, manifestations of emergence in the world, mystical transformation on attainment of enlightenment, turnings of the wheel of teaching, and displays of ultimate extinction. This he saw in each and every object. Just as the sun, moon, and stars in the sky are seen reflected in a clear, limpid pool of water, so did all the Buddhas of the cosmos appear reflected in each object of the luminous jewel palace, this as a result of the girl Maitrayani's past roots of goodness. Having viewed this, holding in mind the features of this supernal array of visions of Buddhas, Sudna joined his hands in a gesture of respect and turned his attention to Maitrayani's words. She said, "I have attained the means of access to perfect wisdom from the arrangement of the totality. I sought this from Buddhas as numerous as grains of sand in 36 Ganges rivers, and those Buddhas introduced me to the means of access to perfect wisdom by way of the arrangement of the totality, through various ways of entry into it, each different." Sudna said, "What is the sphere of this means of access to perfect wisdom by way of the arrangement of the totality?" She said, "Focusing my attention on this means of access to perfect wisdom by way of the arrangement of the totality, meditating on it, following it, pondering it, contemplating it, making it familiar, keeping it in mind, putting it in order, putting it into effect, perfecting it, thoroughly examining it. I developed a mental control called facing in all directions, in the sphere of which mental control incalculable tens of hundreds of thousands of media of the teaching operate, assemble, become visible, become accessible, and develop. For example, the medium of Buddhalands, the medium of Buddhas, the medium of doctrines, the medium of all beings, the medium of the past, the medium of the future, the medium of the present, the medium of the limit of duration, the medium of virtue, the medium of provisions of virtue, the medium of knowledge, the medium of provisions of knowledge, the medium of vows, the medium of differentiation of vows, the medium of practices, the medium of purification of practices, the medium of accumulation of practices, the medium of fulfillment of practices, the medium of actions, the medium of harmony of actions, the medium of streams of actions, the medium of performance of actions, the medium of fields of actions, the medium of rejection of evil actions, the medium of undertaking of proper actions, the medium of control of actions, the medium of morality, the medium of guidance to right ethics, the medium of concentration, the medium of practice pursuant to concentration, the medium of contemplation in concentration, the medium of spheres of concentration, the medium of emerging from concentration, the medium of mystic knowledge, the medium of the ocean of mind, the medium of ways of thought, the medium of clearing away entanglements of mind, the medium of illumining the obscure recesses of the mind, the medium of calming and clearing the pool of the mind, the medium of capacities of the mind, the medium of the actions of the mind, the medium of the occurrence of sentient beings' afflictions, the medium of defiling habit energies, the medium of the acting out of afflictions, the medium of interests, the medium of the conduct of sentient beings, the medium of the variety of conduct of sentient beings, the medium of the productions of the world, the medium of the inclinations of sentient beings, the medium of what is in the conceptions of sentient beings, the medium of places, the medium of the realms of phenomena, the medium of great compassion, the medium of great kindness, the medium of tranquility, the medium of speech, the medium of reason, the medium of attainments, the medium of distinctions, the medium of unity, the medium of ultimate non-attachment, the medium of totality, the medium of the principles of Buddhas, the medium of the principles of enlightening beings, the medium of the principles of disciples, the medium of the principles of individual illuminates, the medium of worldly principles, the medium of principles of formation of worlds, the medium of principles of disintegration of worlds, the medium of principles of the existence of worlds, the medium of purification of worlds, the medium of defilement of worlds, the medium of worlds with purity amid defilement, the medium of worlds with defilement amid purity, the medium of wholly defiled worlds, the medium of wholly pure worlds, the medium of levelness of worlds, the medium of inverted worlds, the medium of upside-down worlds, the medium of entry into the network of the cosmos in which everything is interrelated, the medium of revolving of worlds, the medium of being based on thoughts, the medium of the microcosmic found in the macrocosmic, the medium of the macrocosmic in the microcosmic, the medium of vision of Buddhas, the medium of variety of embodiments of Buddhas, the medium of variety of auras of Buddhas, the medium of differences in the voices of Buddhas, the medium of the production of the wheels of teaching of Buddhas, the medium of the continuity of the wheels of teaching of Buddhas, the medium of expressions of the wheels of teaching of Buddhas, the medium of the turning of the wheels of teaching of Buddhas, the medium of embodiments of Buddhas, the medium of the audiences of Buddhas, the medium of the differences and audiences of Buddhas, the medium of entry into the oceans of audiences of Buddhas, the medium of illumination of the powers of Buddhas, the medium of concentrations of Buddhas, the medium of mystic emanations from the concentrations of Buddhas, the medium of the states of Buddhas, the medium of the magic powers of Buddhas, the medium of the projected forms of Buddhas, the medium of Buddha's knowledge of what is on the minds of others, the medium of spiritual transformations of Buddhas, the medium of abiding in the state of satisfaction, the medium of the works of Buddhas up to the manifestation of ultimate extinction, the medium of works for the benefit of infinite beings, the medium of the profound doctrine of emptiness, the medium of various doctrines, the medium of forms of the practices of enlightening beings, the medium of the forms of the production of the aspiration for enlightenment, the medium of the forms of provisions of the aspiration for enlightenment, the medium of the forms of vows, the medium of the forms of practices, the medium of the forms of mystic knowledge, the medium of the forms of emancipation, the medium of the forms of purification of mental control, the medium of the forms of purification of the sphere of knowledge, the medium of the forms of purification of wisdom, the medium of the infinite forms of enlightenment, the medium of forms of purification of mindfulness. I know this means of access to perfect wisdom, which is the array of total mindfulness. How can I know the practice or tell the virtues of the enlightening beings whose minds are like space, whose intellects are broad as the cosmos, whose mental flow is based on accumulated virtue, who have attained transmundane understanding, who do not practice worldly ways, who have attained the eye of the light of knowledge without obscurity, who clearly discern all realms of reality, whose awareness is infinite as space, whose eyes are mindful of all objects, who are filled with the light of the state of non-obstruction, who are skilled in analyzing all doctrines, meanings, and statements, who are not overcome by any world, who conduct themselves well according to worldly standards and are irreproachable in any worldly state, who are intent on the well-being of all worlds, who are a refuge for all beings, who know the manners and courtesies of speech of all worlds, who can give the appearances of dress and habitation of all worlds as they wish, and who are masters of all wheels of time. Go south to the land called Trinayana, where a monk named Sudarshana lives. Go ask him how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings." Then Sudana paid his respects to Maitrayani and left.